Alright, boys and girls, welcome back. Doing some more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer today, and we're going to be playing with Waywatchers, who assume their rightful mantle as the premier archer in Warhammer Fantasy, at least until Sisters of Avalorn get added. They got some huge buffs in the last patch. Their projectile speed got increased, which is a really big deal when you're firing from far away, like Waywatchers are wont to do. Hawkish precision works properly now. They have faster reload speed and 2 more volleys per each soldier in a unit. All that combined makes for a very powerful skirmish force, and we'll be trying to utilize that to its fullest potential. Glady on a Great Eagle provides some of that additional synergy with range builds. Prey of Anathrema net and minus 22% missile resistance is pretty painful when paired with Waywatcher volleys, and Eagle's got a pretty nice buff, higher AP damage and increases to melee attack and defense. Grand Hierophant Khatep of the Tomb Kings unleashing some early volleys from his Skelly Roomba across the way, so we're going to have to close the gap early with our Eternal Guard, War Dancers, and Wildwood Rangers. And for some added mobility and killing power, we do have some Wild Riders operating out on the flank. Amazing cab unit. Absolutely adore them for their speed and DPS. So the Great Eagle and Carrion's going into it right now while the Tomb Kings move up. And Loremaster of Sotek is actually controlling them. He has the Chosen of the Gods, Ushabti with Great Bows, and another unit. You're going to be seeing those rolling in twos a lot. Kemper Guard in the center. Magical attacks, regeneration, and some actual killing power, which isn't something that typically characterizes Tomb King's infantry, but the Kemper Guard are one of those Tomb Guard units that can actually rack up quite a few kills, especially against decent or low armored infantry. And Khatep is here on his Casket of Souls, forcing me to move up, unfortunately, with that artillery from range. And he's on a very nice little position up top on the hill. Some Nahakaran warriors and some Sepulchral Stalkers out on the flank. These are the Regiment of Renown version, the Eyes in the Desert. They do have stalks so they can move completely hidden and unseen, backing up some Skeleton Horsemen out there with some Carrion flying overhead. So the Carrion are going to be very annoying, as are these light cavalry, trying to scoot and shoot, run down my Waywatchers as the Ushabti with Great Bows fire in, and I'll have to move back very quickly here, or they'll get a nasty little charge in. Now, I am getting some shots as I retreat. They will get a little bit of a charge here as my Eternal Guard come in to reinforce. Shouldn't lose too many models as we retreat here. Yeah, the HP on them is completely fine. So we should be able to finish them off, but he was very close to doing some damage. Was my Wild Riders engaged Skeleton Horsemen, and I had no idea the Eyes of the Desert were actually out on this flank as well, and that is exactly how you want to use them. You use them to support cavalry engagements. Don't want them to take the charge. A little bit too squishy for that, but if you can support some of your other cavalry, let the cheap stuff take the charge, they can be very good in a prolonged fight with their poison and their ranged attacks, and that could be a problem for me. So you can see my Wild Riders are already down past half HP. Didn't get a good charge on the other one, and I'll try to overlap the engagement and surround them, but over on this flank, Carrion being super annoying and doing what they're best at, which is harassing archers, preventing them from firing. And they only cost 350 gold, so they're actually pretty decent in terms of cost effectiveness, even if you lose them, and you can tie down those Waywatchers for a while and allow those Ushabti with Great Bows to fire in. So Sotek is doing a good job right now, kind of harassing my back lines, tying up those archers, as Khatep lands a nasty blast of Eldritch energy into the middle of my Rangers, and with the Chosen of the Gods showering them in shrapnel, my most expensive infantry unit is quickly getting cut down to size. Finish up the Tomb King's light cavalry, at least for now. We can ignore those Stalkers, move on to greener pastures with the Wild Riders, and in the center, the War Dancers of the Trickster's Wood are charging in. And honestly, they're kind of being utilized poorly right now. Already being exposed to archer fire. Incantation of Vengeance comes down. Angry Fist pops out of the ground. And those ladies are in for a world of hurt, even at full health. I don't know that they would trade particularly well with Kemper Guard. But now, with already down to half strength, charging in, they're probably going to rout almost on contact with those Tomb Guard. And yeah, they're pretty much going to break instantly. Almost instantly dead, although there was some friendly fire there from Khatep, which wasn't great. But yeah, that was not a great infantry engagement in the center, but Wildwood Rangers and some of my other Eternal Guard are moving up as the Azrai Spear War Dancers look to skirt around the flank and hopefully shut down those Ushabti with Great Bows. As Arrow of Kurnus slams into Khatep on top of his Roomba, and Wild Riders look to engage here. So now this is where we can actually fight them. They really don't like getting charged by Wild Riders out when they're isolated like that. With the rear charge coming in as well, and support from the Azrai Spear War Dancers, that is a perfect engagement out on the flank, and these very expensive Sepulchral Stalkers should go down relatively quickly. Then there was a Vortex spell out here on the Tomb King's left flank, so I pulled my Wildwood Rangers back so they didn't take that straight to the dome, and I got my Azrai Spear War Dancers directly in to the Ushabti with great bows, which is the exact engagement I want. Tie them down, they will get carved to pieces by those very quick, very powerful armor-piercing ladies that can just butcher pretty much any large unit in the game, while my two Waywatchers fire into the Ushabti with great bows. Now, I have taken a lot of damage, both from Khatep and from the Ushabti from range, so my Waywatchers aren't doing so well right now, but they do have a ton of their ammunition left, so I keep them alive. Can definitely do a lot of work with them. The Wild Riders can now skirt around behind, get in behind, and hopefully get the rear charge off, finish off those Ushabti with great bows, and basically complete that collapse in and around these Tomb King units. Surround Khatep and finish him off as my Glady and the Waywatchers fire in. And Prey of Anathrema goes down, missile resistance gets cut down by 22%, and with the Glady and two Waywatchers firing in, Khatep is dropping so quickly to that focus fire, and the gen sniping should help a lot here as Ushabti gets summoned by Sotek behind my line. Eternal Guard getting charged from the rear, having a very bad day and likely going to rout very soon, but Wild Riders coming in now. Unfortunately, I clicked an attack order, and apparently I must have missed it with a movement order. I did not get my charge off on those Ushabti with great bows, and that is a problem, and it is a big problem indeed. But we did get into Khatep, finishing him off here. Gonna focus fire with my Waywatchers somewhere else. The Wild Riders should be able to finish off the Lord there with the Glady coming in on the Great Eagle with that extra armor piercing. Ushabti still around, cutting down the War Dancers who did come back. The Wildwood Rangers are still in the fight for now, but look to be about to rout. Another Vortex comes down, and Khatep is going to die here, completely surrounded by Wild Riders and the Lord, and he goes down, exploding in a glorious conflagration of baleful energy as the Wild Riders continue their push forward, can now slam into the back of those skeleton archers, shut them down for good. And the Glady's still in relatively good shape. I mean, she's at half health. I don't have any spells here to keep her in the fight if she drops too low. But my Waywatchers have a lot of opportunity here to rack up kills because I've shut down all the mobility for the Tomb Kings and now pretty much have free reign to use their armor piercing, their hawkish precision, get those long range shots in, and do some real nice damage. But I am starting to run low on ammo, and part of the problem that Khatep and those who shot with the great bows gave me was that as we get a really nasty volley there into the Kepler Guard and take down some of them, they do have that regeneration, so there'll be a problem if I can't finish them off soon. But every time you lose a model in a Waywatcher unit, you're losing the ammo for that model as well. So you're losing a lot of the DPS. And so the fact that the Tomb Kings had so much range firepower on the field in this one has been a bit of an issue for me because those Waywatchers, if they hadn't taken so much damage from range, would be able to do a ton of work for me right now as we move into the later stages of the game. My Wild Riders are in bad shape. Their routing might come back, but only a handful of models left. And I am going to have to commit these ones into melee because they're completely out of ammunition. And getting a charge in from behind, those Kepler Guard are so close to crumbling, and I really need to finish them off because that regeneration will keep them in the fight if they're able to kind of sit around and get some of that health back. Azrai Spear War Dancers on the other side, we do have them pinned, but they're not really going to have a whole lot of trouble dealing with Waywatchers in melee. Not a bad archer unit in close quarters combat, but especially for archers, but certainly not going to be able to deal with elite tier infantry either. And nice little shot from the Glady there. Gonna topple over an Ushabti onto the hill. And every time we can do that, it's a big deal. Get a nice little arrow of Kurnis in there. Is that enough to finish it off? Yep, that model died as well. So that's some good stuff. We just killed two of the Chosen of the Gods. That's gonna be nice. Whether it's in melee or from range, those guys can hurt you bad. So any damage we get into them will be very nice. And the Glady now charging into the skeleton archers who are crumbling. And the Great Eagle should be able to rip those bony boys in half and make sure they don't come back to the fight. This battle is getting insanely close here. Ushabti with Great Bow is getting some shots in before one Azrai Spear War Dancer, oh man, decapitated, managed to tie them down with the Wild Riders coming in from behind. And this armor piercing and bonus for large, we should be able to finally finish them off here. And yeah, they're beginning to crumble now. And that is what those Spear War Dancers are so good for, especially in tandem with the Wild Riders. So much mobility, so much damage they can dish out. Real nice. Okay, but we've still got an issue because the Kepler Guard are alive somehow still. They've been crumbling for what feels like 2 or 3 minutes now. And there's a full, half-strength unit of Tomb Guard with halberds that will be able to deal with both my Glady and my Wild Riders. So rear charges will be the name of the game. These Azrai Spear War Dancers are not looking so hot here. Kind of getting surrounded by overwhelming numbers from the Tomb Kings. And there's a little pocket of resistance there in the middle. And looks like they might have just broken as the Wild Riders look for something to charge into. But with the Anvil kind of getting shut down and on the verge of routing, they need to charge in before that happens. Wild Riders coming in from behind. It's a little bit dangerous for them. Nice charge supported by the Glady. Is it enough to crumble this blob? You do see some crumbling going on right now for sure. Some leadership penalties dropping there. Without support from Khatep, Tomb Kings don't have great leadership. There's a lot of crumbling, but there is wavering on both sides now. Spearmen coming in to reinforce. Waywatchers getting committed. It's all getting thrown into melee now, and it is getting super close. Balance bar still even. Could go either way as the Tomb Guard look to engage the Azrai Spear War Dancers. And the Eagle is coming. Can't imbue fear on things that already cause it, but her presence and kill potential in close quarters is pretty useful. On top of that, Bird of Prey. Crumbling on the Tomb Guard line, but there's a lot of routing on the War Dancer line as well. And everything is routing or crumbling so insanely close here as we get to the end game. And at the bottom of the hill, a final desperate charge from the girls in green. Gonna try and time that with a rear charge from the Lord overhead if we can. It's gonna get really close here. Charging uphill now. There aren't very many of them left, but the Skeleton Warriors are so close to completely shattering, as are the Tomb Guard. Few Nahakaran Warriors in the mix, but almost instantly off the charge there. They're going to get a good one, but it's not quite enough. Azrai Spear War Dancers route. Balance bar shifting in the Tomb King's favor. Glady lands, and a couple attacks might be enough to cause more crumbling. Yeah, there's a little bit of crumbling still going on, but now surrounded by bonus for large units. Great Eagle and the Glady probably will not be enough to seal the deal here, and the Tomb Kings will win with only a handful of troops left. And I think, honestly, two big mistakes. Oh, look at all that crumbling. Everything is crumbling, but it doesn't matter. The Tomb Kings have enough units here to survive the onslaught, and with the Glady routing, that will be your game. Yeah, there were two big mistakes that cost me the match there, I think. The War Dancers in the beginning, they were sent in too hastily against a unit they probably wouldn't have performed well against anyway, but I exposed them to spells and range fire that I really didn't have to. Should have kept them in reserve a little bit longer, waited for the Eternal Guard to soak up some of that fire first. And the Wild Riders missing their charge. If either one of those had been handled better, especially if the Wild Riders had gotten a clean charge off on the Great Bows, I think I would have taken that game. Must have just been a misclick, but it hurt me bad. Big mistake, because a clean charge would have crumbled those Ushabti Great Bows instantly and allowed me to swoop in from behind and get those hammer and anvils off repeatedly. Waywatchers actually did quite a bit of damage that game. Killed off almost 2 units of Ushabti with Great Bows and killed off Khatep. Didn't get a ton of kills, but that's fine. They weren't going for the unimportant stuff. They were going for the high value targets, and I honestly think Waywatchers are going to be incredibly good on this patch. Sotek did a really nice job with Khatep and his Great Bows, just shutting down those Waywatchers and hurting them pretty bad so they couldn't fire all their ammunition, and that also played a pretty big impact on this game. Hope you guys enjoyed the battle. See you next time. Any Pride, signing out for now.